Alrighty, let's get into this. Another episode of um reviews that I do. Today is about Scream 7. Didn't see it on opening day, even though I wanted to. I wanted to see it with a friend. I just never had time to do it like around those couple of weeks. But I was like, what? Finally, we can see it this week. And there's definitely a lot of talk about this movie. I always love to not look at reviews when I go into movies just to really just, gauge about how I feel personally about them. And, that happens where a lot of times I'll see a movie that I really like and then I find out that not a lot of people like it. And that is a little bit of the story about Scream 7 because my first reactions while coming out of it were that I really enjoyed it. And I think the consensus online, from what I've been seeing, is mostly from people that are extremely huge fans of this franchise. And then, whether it comes to hate or love, there's always bandwagons. You can have people that really like something, and then word of mouth gets out, and everyone just talks about it ad nauseum. Or then you have things that everyone hates, and then ad nauseum, everyone talks about how much they hate it. Because, I think maybe I'm just not as big a Scream fan as I thought I was because, you know, a lot of things that everyone had problems with, I didn't really feel those kind of feelings when I first saw it. Maybe on a second rewatch or whatever, like I'll feel something different. All I know is that I had a fun time watching it. You know, I don't like what happened with the main girl from the last two movies, with the whole firing and stuff. And, it's a kind of a hard pill to swallow. I was like, when I heard that, I was like, well, they were kind of setting up some stuff going to happen in the next movie. Like, there's some talks about how she's going to maybe be the next Ghostface, kind of. And I thought, oh, they're going to do like a Ghostface versus Ghostface kind of stuff. Like, it was very, very interesting, with where they were going to go with her. And, now that she's not here, I was kind of going like, I was like, it's going to definitely feel very weird, about like what they're going to try to do because they're going to have to do a lot of course correction, because, they have a whole story set up and then you just have to mishmash a thing together. So you get essentially kind of like a Rise of Skywalker kind of scenario where like, you're trying to appease fans and you try to like, to hurriedly make some stuff together and, you know, maybe because I enjoy horror more than I do Star Wars or whatever, or even if maybe I just didn't care for Rise of Skywalker. Because, if you could compare how these things ended up, like, you had a whole trilogy, or you had a whole stuff set up with the other Star Wars movies, and then they just flopped, like, really bad in terms of, like, just story. Because even I was just very bored of Rise of Skywalker. I thought it was just very bland. I have not watched it since it came out. In fact, I actually have not even watched Last Jedi or Rise. I watched them once. I never watched them again, compared to the other ones where I've watched multiple times. But I guess this is that version of it. Like Scream 7 is from when it, from like everyone's, thoughts about it. But again, maybe I just was not in the mood to critique, or I'm not in the mood to like think about the other movies. But, like, I watched it, and the main thing that I'll say that I got from it that I haven't gotten from other Ghostface movies, is that I felt like it was one of the first times where, like, I guess they've said this is a new Ghostface kind of thing. Like, it definitely felt that way, because I remember the 6th movie, and they were trying to, like, get across, like, this is a whole new breed of Ghostface, it's different, right? And then they had the same kind of tagline here where, like, in this one, what was it? Because in the 6th movie for the trailer, they had a voice line from Ghostface saying, I'm not like the others, Sydney. I'm something different. And the only different thing is that he fucking used a shotgun, I guess. That was the only thing, I guess, different about that Ghostface. But, the whole tagline, it didn't really lead anywhere. Because I felt like the reveal that it was just, spoilers, I guess, the reveal of the killers in the 6th movie we were just, the relatives and father of, like, the main bad guy from the 5th movie. It felt very weak, and I was just kind of like, I I remember like, and I remember going like, well, I fucking called it like immediately, right? Like the very first time you see the fucking cop guy, like the dad, you know it's Ghostface. Like you knew he was a bad guy. Just not gonna lie, the new ones have definitely did not been doing a very good job, or we're just getting better at catching them. They're just not been very good like reveals anymore. I feel like you just kind of are able to call them out just because of the way they set up certain characters, the way they like, oh well, it's a big actor, so you know they're gonna be somewhat of a big role. That's what happens, and I just kind of feel like we gotta do something a little bit different. Which I feel like they did do one big thing different in this one that they've never done before, which I really enjoyed. And this goes back to what I love about the movie, kind of, is that I love the aggression of Ghostface in this one. Where, like, in the trailers, he said, "I'm not hiding, Sydney. Not this time." And it was such an aggressive Ghostface where, like, everyone's been saying Stu is back as Ghostface, which, I was like, if they do that, that's going to be really... I was hoping it would not be that, which is why I think it's funny, because I don't know, everyone was hoping for that, and everyone's, like, disappointed by that. I'm thankful that they didn't do that, even though, yeah, like, when I kept thinking about it, like, oh, I guess it'd be fun just to see Matthew Lillard back, or not Stu back, but Matthew Lillard, like, back as, like, the killer, but, like, in a story thing, I'm like, oh, I'm very happy they didn't do that, because it would have made no fucking sense. It would have been really stupid unless they had a meta commentary on that anyways. But, so, the very first, like, reveal is that Stu is alive, right? And I was taken aback by that, because I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't expect them to really just, like, show you immediately. So I'm like, okay, then it must not really be him then, because, like, they just show him immediately, so it has to be, like, someone else. But then it was funny, because the more they kept saying, it's not Stu, it's not Stu, my brain was like, are you trying to make me believe it's not Stu now? Because then that's when I started thinking it was Stu. Then I'm like, oh, because, Sydney and Gail keep saying it's AI, it's AI. And I was like, you keep saying that almost as if, like, I shouldn't believe that it's, maybe that was a red herring in of itself, Because I kept thinking it's so weird that, like, they kept saying that. And then from the test screenings, and apparently you hear that, I guess, an original ending was that Stu was alive. And so now it makes sense about why they kept trying to almost, like, give you a red herring that it's not really Stu. It can't be Stu. Because there's so much evidence of, like, it can't be Stu. Like, when you give evidence of, like, why it can't be this, it has to be it then, right? So now I'm kind of like... That is where then I'm starting to see, like, this... Even though I still enjoyed watching it, I can agree that this story was a mess, because you can tell they're just trying to do so much, and having Stu be alive was part of the original script, which is why I think it doesn't make any sense of why they were trying to convince you in the movie that Stu's not really there, because they wanted him to actually come back in the end credits or whatever. Anyways, though, I was very shocked by how fast they showed him. Because, in the trailer, they show off his voice, and I'm like, I was really hoping that it was not him, because I'm like, well, if it's him, then you kind of take away the whole part of, like, well, who is Ghostface kind of thing, right? So when they revealed him, I'm like, okay, well, they're just kind of giving it out of the bag already, so we don't have to really think about that too much. So that was a big surprise. The other big surprise was the first Ghostface attack is against Sydney and her family is by a random. They open up the mask and it's a fucking random guy that she saw at the coffee shop, like, one day, and I was like, ooh, that's unique, because it's never really happened before where you have someone not connected in any shape or form. It's the first time you've unmasked the ghost face, like, in halfway through the movie. So I was very, like, I kind of liked that, and I liked the reason why it felt so aggressive, because they were essentially kind of playing the third act in the first act of the movie, and I was like, you could feel the aggression, like the, ending. So that was really fun for me. I just felt like the ghost face in here, it felt like he was everywhere, constantly, right? You never got a break from this ghost face. And so I guess, me personally, I like how Ghostface was done in this movie, where it really just felt like he definitely felt like a new breed of Ghostface, where, like, he's just everywhere. He's in your face constantly. There's no break from him. Like, he is just sapping and killing left and right. It felt like the most on-screen deaths I've seen. Maybe I haven't seen them in a long time, But yeah, I actually really liked Ghostface in this movie. The opening was also kind of fun too. you know, I will admit it's a little bit disappointing how like the entire first opening is just shown in the trailer. Because the sixth movie, the reveal that the ghost face that were killing people end up getting killed by a different ghost face, that was really unique. And then having him like the ghost face on the ground going, "We have to finish the movie. Who gives a fuck about movies?" Right? It was it was a different breed of ghost face where it's like this one doesn't care about the movies. He doesn't. It's like a whole like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All of them have cared about the movies before, so this one's different, right? So I guess that's why he was like, "I'm not like the other one, Sydney. I'm different." And I guess that was the whole different thing. But I just never felt it. This one though, it did feel different. Where like he's like, "I'm not hiding anymore," and it really did feel like he's just constantly in your face, and that's why I really liked it. And then it helped because in the end, the reveal. I'll get to that in a second, but I just feel I like the energy from the movie. I like the daughter aspect of the movie of her being more sheltered and her wanting to fight. I know some people say that that's not in Sydney's character, and again, I understand that, but I also feel like in this movie, it's like more of like it had to have some kind of conflict, right? And if you're just gonna do Halloween Kills again, we're just making Linda or whatever. Well, I can't know her name. Jamie Lee Curtis, her character. I can't believe I fucking forgot. I don't remember her names. I'm bad at names, but having her train her daughter to be a killer, or a defender, it's like it had to go a little bit different. So I really do feel like Stephanie she's always in the spotlight and she just wanted to escape so bad. Maybe that took a seat before her better judgment of like preparing her daughter. I don't know. Maybe she just felt she could just do it all herself. Because I do know some parents that just just are just so focused on being the one to do everything. They don't really think about helping their own children. I just feel like you have to have a perspective on that to understand the inner workings of a parent. Because I have personal experience with that. I'm not going to just say about personal stuff, but like, I understand why maybe Sydney acted that way and treated her daughter like that too. I don't really feel like it's as far-fetched as some people think. Because they had different parents, and different experiences. But, I thought that was okay. The daughter and mom stuff I thought worked fine, Again, a lot of throwaway characters though, yeah. Like, there are a lot of, everyone's fucking dies, and I'm like, I don't really care about that. I'm here for the killings. Like, I want to do that again. But, yeah, so I'm here for the Ghostface killings, So maybe that's why maybe I'm not really that much of a Ghostface or a Scream fan. Because I'm not like... I feel like people that get very mad about certain things, like they really are just like, what is the core of this IP or what's the core of this franchise, right? That's why so many Sonic fans, I think, go fucking apes over shit for certain things. Because, I really care about the core value of certain things, but, I'm also a realist. Like, these are entertainment things, right? The core of whatever is behind these things, that's what drives. But the moment that doesn't make any money, they're just gonna get rid of it. Like it's not set in stone, right? Like you only return to core things if you need the money again, right? And apparently, from what I heard though, is like apparently they're gonna stay away from meta stuff in the new Scream movies, which I will admit I'm like, because you've done it for every fucking movie. And it's not like you've not been making any money. So that's where I'm a little bit confused by that. I'm like, well, every Scream movie makes good money, so I don't get why you're trying to now change the formula. I will admit, though, like, things do have to change, because even at this point, I'm kind of getting tired of, like, who's the killer, right? Because I'm like, you're not doing a good job of that anymore, So it has to be different, so I will admit they also are starting to see the steam run out, so they can't just keep doing meta commentary, because, other things I guess we'll be doing that. I don't know, this new scary movie's gonna come out soon, so I just don't know if they don't want to write that way anymore. But meta is part of Scream, and I am a little bit confused now of why they're trying to stray away from that, because that's not even a core thing. That's just what Scream is, But like I was saying though, things change. So I may not like it, but I'm not here like, how could they do that? It's like, well, it's a very obvious reason why I don't want it. It's a company making IPs. It's just how it is. And again, maybe if I cared more about Scream, I'd more like, they can't do this, right? Because I feel like that's what everyone does. When they care a lot about something, they are very passionate about that. But I don't know. I've always felt like being a huge, major fan of like Scream is a little weird because of how they make fun of that in the Scream movies. But you know, I'm wearing merch of Scream, and they have merch of Stab stuff in the Scream movies. So I don't know. It's always been weird to really like meta stuff because you know you're kind of like part of the, I don't know, especially part of the Scream movies because they have Stab movies, Scream movies in the universe. So anyway, I'm rambling. Get to the point of the ending. The reveal for the killers are that it was some psych ward guy they met in the middle of the movie where he was watching over the killer that was in the beginning, that was, you know, the random guy, right? He escaped the psych ward this guy is from, and then I guess also Stu was said to be in that psychiatry ward. I don't think he was. And this is where I think again, the not Stu being alive, you can really tell his whole movie is like centered around that, and that's where I do feel like it falls apart in that regard because they had him alive. They wrote that in there, and Screen people said test audiences says we don't like that, so they got rid of it. But your whole movie is kind of centered around the fact that he's alive. You know, a psych ward guy is connected somehow. The AI is not even like really delved into for like the plot. It's supposed to be like, oh, is he alive or isn't he? They try to convince you that he's not alive. But yeah, so that's where I'm like, yeah, I think they lost track of that, and getting rid of Stu being alive, even if I quote unquote wouldn't have liked that, I think that they just ran out of time and they couldn't rewrite the whole thing again. Because they had to rewrite that anyways because they got rid of their main actor. So yeah, it's a whole mess when you really think about it. But, you know, oh, I forgot about the main girl. So the main girl is revealed to be her next door neighbor, Jessica or whatever. And it's funny because I fucking called it because she had a little talk with her and she was so nice and I'm like, she's the fucking killer. I'm like, it's right there. It's like, it was just so obvious. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's just so obvious now. Maybe they've always been obvious, you know, I don't know. I just know now that when I'm thinking about who to look for, I'm like, it's always them in the beginning of these movies. Like, it's always the first couple of people you see, always. And like, you know, the psycho little, you know, son of hers, and like, not psycho, but like weird son, and the boyfriend, they all are playing the roles of like, could be the killer. I'm like, that's not the killer then, because you're making it so obvious that that's not them, because, oh, well, could be like Billy, you know, it's got the same demeanor. Like, no, it's not him, because you're making it so much it has to be him, you know? But it's revealed that she loves Sydney so much because, you know, Sydney wrote a book about getting over trauma, and Jessica had an abusive husband, so she took every good advice in those books and took it to where I'm like, I have to kill my husband now, because Sydney always kills the bad guy, right? And then when Sydney disappeared, she got mad about that, and now she's like forcing her out of retirement, and is mad that she wasn't part of that movie, or part of the, I guess, the sixth movie, right? And so she's like trying to now like kill her and make a new Sydney, controlling the whole plot, I guess. So, you know, and it's funny because everyone hates this new killer, and I'm like, I don't know. I think that final girl versus final girl mentality, kind of like in the fourth movie, I like that. Because, you know, you have someone that was a victim and took life into their own hands by killing their husband and killing her son also, because she ends up killing her son as Ghostface, which is pretty fucked up but kind of funny. But yeah, I guess her, like, it was trying to have like a meta thing about the previous movie of why they couldn't have, you know, Sydney in there, even though like they just didn't want to pay her enough money for that movie. So yeah, that's where again it becomes kind of weird, because like it's meta commentary almost like on real things now, not just the movie itself. But I guess like it's trying to like weave in explanations and like kind of like tie things together about why certain things happened, you know. And that's where again it kind of falls apart. But I guess I didn't really mind it. I don't know. I've watched so much now like reviews now and like talks about this movie where I'm like confused now where my opinion begins and ends now, because that's why I don't like doing that before I make reviews, because I don't want to get confused. Because I just know that when I saw that, I know I was like disappointed, and it's more so not because of who it was, more of like I'm just disappointed because I'm like, we don't have any like good mystery anymore. They're not good whodunits anymore. I guess. Like the second movie, I remember like, oh whoa, I didn't expect that, right? And maybe just because I just didn't expect certain things, but when I really let myself go, like, okay, it's her. Her motivations are that she's upset at Sydney for like abandoning her essentially. I was kind of like, I feel like it's a different approach compared to the other movies. I don't remember any of the other ones having that kind of like, you know, you love someone so much and they abandon you, and then like it's like, oh well, now I'm gonna destroy everything that was a part of you, kind of thing. I guess first movie was boyfriend and weird guy. Second movie, mom. Third movie was the relative. Fourth movie is someone wanting to be Sydney, which was very unique. Fifth one is just the boyfriend again, trying to recreate the movies. Second movie or sixth movie is just the family getting mad that she killed their brothers slash son. Yeah, this one I feel like was different. And if I was more like involved right now and thinking about this, I would talk more about it. But I'm starting to get tired. Not gonna lie. All I know is that when I saw the movie, I thought it was pretty different. Again, I like the aggression from Ghostface, and that's probably the only thing I guess I can say about it that no one else is talking about, because I don't see anyone talking about the way Ghostface is in this movie. I think that was the first time where I feel like you really do not have a break from him, and I think it's because that red herring Ghostface in the beginning is different. It was very unique. None of the other ones have had that. But I will say this is definitely a story that was designed to appease people and try to keep the boat afloat because of what happened with the whole firing and casting and all that shit. So, unfortunately, real world stuff affected the movie story wise, but, is it as bad as Rise of Skywalker? Hell no. Like, I'll watch this one more than I'll watch Rise of... That Rise of Skywalker is just... That is just actually just horrible from what I remember. But, yeah. I enjoyed it. I am in the very small minority of that, but yeah, I thought it was fun. I like the kills, I like the suspense and the tension and everything, but yeah. Um, I am alone, as always. But, yes. Now I'm tired. Okay, goodbye.